NGO, environmental defenses, they oppose all new pipelines being built in Canada. Worse still, they actually want to get rid of the ones we already have. Environmental defense even told the federal hearing that, and I quote, "Not only do you have to not add any more pipelines, you have to start phasing out," end quote. Now, we all know that's nuts. We need pipelines in all directions in Canada. Not only does Canada need access to export markets for our oil, but we desperately need jobs. And we need to get Eastern Canada off Venezuelan and Saudi oil by building the Energy East pipeline. Saying we need to end all pipelines is extremist talk spoken by wild-eyed crazy people out of touch with reality. And those guys at Environmental Defense are just a bunch of fringe wackadoodles anyways, aren't they? No one takes those Luddite kooks seriously, right? If only. Unfortunately, they're one of the favorite environmental activist groups of both the federal Liberals and the Alberta NDP. Environmental Defense was part of the official Canadian government contingent to Marrakesh, Morocco for the United Nations Climate Change Conference held in a fake city built in the middle of the desert especially for the event. Canadian taxpayers actually paid the way for these Canadian-hating activists to tell the world it's moral and just to put more Canadian families into the poorhouse. And the love affair between Catherine McKenna, Canada's Climate Barbie Environment Minister, and Environmental Defense doesn't end there. McKenna was a keynote speaker at an event that celebrated a new era of collaboration, an alliance between Environmental Defense, Equiterre, and the Pembina Institute. Now, all three of these groups are explicitly anti-pipeline, and the event was actually co-hosted by Catherine McKenna. But not to be outdone, Rachel Notley appointed Tim Gray, the executive director of Environmental Defense, to her oil sands advisory group. Now, that group will decide the fate and future of the oil industry in Alberta, and Notley appointed someone from a group that opposes every single pipeline that exists in Canada. Now, we know Notley's just outsourcing the political hot potato of being the voice of no to pipeline development to her friends in the environmental movement. The statements made by Environmental Defense against pipeline development should disqualify them from ever being a part of any reasonable, grown-up discussion about pipeline development in this country. But Rachel Notley is ignoring any and all calls to fire her pet activists, even now. Let's boil down this left-wing love affair with Environmental Defense to what it really means. When Notley and McKenna give credibility, ministerial support, and taxpayer funds to groups that oppose Canadian pipelines, Notley and McKenna are by default working against Canadian jobs, against Canadian prosperity, and are in turn helping oil-producing nations that have as many human rights protections as they have for the environment, as in none at all. The world needs more oil. There are 200,000 unemployed Albertans, but Rachel Notley and Catherine McKenna are supporting people who would rather send those much-needed jobs to Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To learn more about Rachel Notley's crazy picks for the Oil Sands Advisory Group and maybe to ask her to fire a few of them, go to fireberman.ca and sign our petition.